Witcher, 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 there's fish people drowning our sheep in the river!
Sounds like drowners. Gonna need spicy mayo.
Okay.
Oil my blade. Witcher magic for every occasion. Killing monsters is what I do.
Okay, can you hurry?
Witcher! A vampire ate my mom!
A Dracula needs garlic butter.
And I guess bringing in a new White Wolf at this point in the season, a bold move and a tall order for Liam.
And of course, he wanted to honor the character that had already been set up, because he knows that he's stepping into a role. But at the same time, he wanted to make sure that his performance was authentic, that it felt like him, that he wasn't playing and mimicking anything.
I have myself and my team out making great content and acquiring great content, but if 1 out of 10 times you push play, it didn't work, we'd be toast.
Way back
They
in
should have just canceled
2019, it was and there were more than a few outlets and fans.
I don't know why Netflix would have even continued with it, because like it's only going to damage their brand and make them look bad. Like you probably should be paying money to not have it shown.
Saying that possible, actually releasing the show. And let's just
I don't know why they released it. They should have just canceled it. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people obviously don't like this type of content.
When they announced that Henry Cavill was leaving the show to be replaced by Liam Hemsworth. And let's face it, the show was already dead and buried in the dirt because of the actions of the showrunner and the writers and the people at Netflix that control the show. Henry Cavill warned everybody. Henry Cavill argued with them. Henry Cavill made it very clear that he was not happy with how they portrayed his character and the entire universe within The Witcher because it went against the books and it went against the games. They were not following the lore, and he knew what fans wanted. That's why he fucking left. So
Netflix's Q2 report came out, and apparently they lost 1 million subscribers in the second quarter of this year, which we already saw that at the beginning of the year, they lost 200,000. The next month, they lost another couple 100,000, and they had projected that they were going to lose a couple million over the next few months.
Oh, I can make whatever I want. I've got him on a farm milking people. I'm gonna send him to the ladies with the red bonnets on.
because everyone can have their version. Everyone shouldn't. Everyone doesn't matter enough to have their version. What matters is the millions upon millions of people which have bought the games, and they deserve to be represented. Lauren doesn't. Lauren's irrelevant. I'm not sure why Lauren's the showrunner. She already scared off the best asset that the series has. Getting rid of Henry Cavill and keeping Lauren would be like losing a Wagyu steak and having it replaced with a carrot. I mean, sure, both
promote this thing until a month before it came out. You knew they knew that switching from like Henry Cavill to Liam Hemsworth, as downhill as the franchise has gone, everybody knew that even they knew it'd be shit.
I'm the most annoying guy on set because I'm saying, excuse me, you do realize that this should be happening and they wouldn't do that, and you haven't read this, that means this would be impossible. And everyone's just going, Henry, just shut up and do the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do the thing because he wouldn't do it this way, and he can do it.
But now I have to.
I think that's just so unfair to the guy. Are we really gonna blame everything and scapegoat this guy? Well, think about it. If the show was so great, why did the first guy leave? It's so unfair.
Nobody expected a throwaway joke on a comedy show to become the spark that set an entire fandom on fire. It wasn't a leaked script, a controversial interview, or some secret behind-the-scenes confession. It was a parody, one tiny moment that hit the internet with more force than any official trailer ever could. Within hours, the clip wasn't just being shared, it was being dissected, memed, and turned into a weapon by fans who felt the series had drifted too far from what made it special. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, the debates reignited, and the community found itself spiraling into a storm of rumors, theories, and unfiltered emotion. A joke meant for amusement had exposed something much deeper.
Witcher, a ghoul,
Sesame glaze,
bear man,
honey mustard,
Werewolf!
honey mustard,
no,
honey mustard,
Thieving!
lemon pepper,
rat boy,
honey mustard.
Witcher, we's catching snails.
That would be French onion.
To agree with the responsibility of that lays at the feet of one woman, the aforementioned Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich, who has finally gotten everything she wanted, complete control of an epic fantasy series on Netflix without the shackles of Henry Cavill.
Apparently, The Witcher 4 is, well, you know, so bad it got cooked. It did. It got completely cooked. It's totally dead.
Siri.
Siri, are you here?
It is. This show was going down the shitter for years. People were hating this show for years.
and the chaos that followed shows just how fragile the show's reputation had become. When the Family Guy parody aired, most people thought it would be nothing more than a quick laugh. The show often pokes fun at pop culture, so The Witcher getting roasted wasn't surprising. But something about this one hit differently. The parody zeroed in on the exact things fans had been whispering about: changes in tone, questionable decisions in Season 4, and the sense that the show had drifted away from what made it special. The accuracy of the joke made it feel almost personal, like someone had taken years of fan frustration and packaged it into one perfectly delivered punchline.
My job? Kill monsters. Get coin. Use coin on McDonald's app. Get points. Use points to get free McChicken. Only 1,500 points. Every dollar spent is 100 points. Constant BOGOs. I always leave with a free McChicken. It's like I'm stealing from them.
Stealing? You're a thief. Lemon pepper!
Within minutes of airing, clips of the parody were ripped, uploaded, and spread across social platforms. People were tagging their friends, laughing at it, but also saying things like, "This shouldn't feel this real," or "This joke understood Season 4 better than the writers did." The joke wasn't just funny, it was relatable, and that relatability gave it power. It turned a simple gag into the spark that reopened a conversation the fandom had been trying to ignore. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The debates reignited, and the community found itself spiraling into a storm of rumors, theories, and unfiltered emotion. As the clip circulated, the internet did what it always does. It turned the moment into a massive meme wave. Subreddits devoted to The Witcher, fandom forums, Twitter circles, and even TikTok creators started repurposing the joke. Some added captions highlighting plot decisions they disliked. Others turned it into commentary on the show's new direction. Before long, the parody wasn't just a clip, it was a symbol. It captured the growing disconnect between fans and the creative direction of Season 4. What stood out the most was how quickly this spread outside normal Witcher spaces. Even casual viewers, people who only vaguely followed the series, were sharing it because the joke was accessible and didn't require deep knowledge to understand. And the more it spread, the more it magnified criticisms that had been simmering under the surface for years. Suddenly, a meme was doing more damage than any bad review ever had. Fans weren't just entertained, they felt validated. And when a fandom feels validated by a joke, that joke becomes a movement. The moment the parody clip began circulating, something shifted across the fandom. At first, people were laughing, sharing the video because it was funny, harmless, and unexpectedly sharp. But that laughter didn't last long. It took only a few hours before the mood changed. The joke didn't just poke fun at the show, it reopened a door fans had tried to close after Season 4 released. Suddenly, months, if not years of frustration came back to the surface like a wave crashing over an already fragile community. People who had quietly drifted away from The Witcher resurfaced in full force. Comments like, "This is exactly why I stopped watching," started appearing everywhere. Viewers who had stayed loyal through Season 1, 2, and even 3 began openly admitting that Season 4 felt different, less grounded, less emotionally sincere, less connected to the universe they loved. The parody, in their eyes, wasn't simply a roast, it was a reflection, a mirror held up to the show that unintentionally revealed how far it had wandered from its original promise. Reddit threads reopened with renewed intensity. Fans dissected every moment of Season 4, comparing it to earlier seasons and pointing out where they felt the tone had shifted. Some argued the writing became too modern, others said the pacing changed, and several insisted character motivations no longer aligned with the books. Even fans who weren't fully invested in lore found themselves agreeing that something intangible had been lost. The parody was simply the spark. The resentment had already been sitting there, ready to ignite. Twitter, now known as X to some, but still called Twitter by most fans, became even more chaotic. Old clips from previous seasons resurfaced, with users labeling them, "This is what the show used to feel like." People brought up decisions that had frustrated them years ago, cut storylines, new character directions, dramatic rewrites, and tied them all together into a larger narrative about declining quality. What might have once been isolated complaints transformed into a cohesive argument, strengthened by the sudden, unexpected pressure created by the parody's popularity. YouTube creators, big and small, jumped into the chaos. Some uploaded breakdowns explaining why Season 4 had become so divisive. Others focused entirely on how a single joke managed to express what reviews had failed to articulate. The phrase, "Family Guy said what we were all thinking," appeared repeatedly across video titles and comment sections. Even creators who normally avoided drama got pulled into the conversation because their audience demanded it.
But the backlash wasn't just loud, it was personal. Many viewers had followed the series from its earliest days, long before Netflix adapted it, and had invested emotionally in the world, the characters, and the tone the show originally set. When they felt the series change direction, they struggled with accepting that shift. The parody didn't cause that tension, it simply spotlighted it in a way that couldn't be ignored. A comedy sketch had unexpectedly become the catalyst for a long-buried cultural debate within the fandom. Even those who defended the show couldn't deny the effect. Some fans tried to push back, insisting the parody exaggerated things for humor, but defending Season 4 felt harder now that the joke had gone mainstream. It wasn't just fans criticizing the show anymore, it was late-night comedy, meme pages, influencers, casual viewers. The scrutiny had expanded beyond the core fandom, giving the backlash a sense of legitimacy that caught many by surprise. The more that clips spread, the more old frustrations resurfaced. People remembered the controversial recasting. They remembered unexpected plot decisions. They remembered storylines that felt rushed or altered. The parody served as a trigger for collective memory, reminding viewers not just of recent issues, but of patterns stretching back seasons. By the end of the week, the backlash was no longer about a joke. It had become a movement, an emotional release for fans who had spent years feeling unheard or dismissed. And as the noise grew louder, it pulled the fandom into an uneasy tension between humor and anger, nostalgia, and disappointment. The parody didn't create the dissatisfaction, it revealed it. And that revelation set the stage for everything that would come next. As the parody continued to gain traction online, the next wave of conversation struck with even more intensity, the question of how Henry Cavill felt about it. Cavill had always been a central figure in the Witcher fandom. Even after his departure from the series, his shadow loomed over every discussion, every creative decision, every comparison fans made between the earlier seasons and the later ones. So it didn't take long before people began wondering, half-jokingly at first, what Cavill's reaction to the parody might have been. And that's all the spark the internet needed. Soon after the clip went viral, posts began circulating claiming Cavill had privately reached out to Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich in frustration. None of these claims had evidence behind them. They were screenshots with no sources, anecdotes with no names attached, and comments from accounts that had mysteriously disappeared a few hours later. But none of that mattered. The fandom was already emotionally charged, and speculation spreads fastest when people feel strongly. The more people felt that the parody highlighted the show's flaws, the more believable these rumors became. Reddit threads began filling with users pointing out how Cavill had always been vocal about staying faithful to the source material. They linked old interviews where he talked passionately about Andrzej Sapkowski's books. They revisited clips where he emphasized accuracy to the lore, nodding toward his deep respect for the world of The Witcher. Suddenly, these interviews were treated like hidden confessions. Fans dissected his tone, his facial expressions, even the pauses between sentences, convincing themselves he had been trying to warn everyone about behind-the-scenes disagreements. On Twitter, the conversation escalated even further. People started saying, insider reports claimed Cavill had been unhappy long before he officially left the show. Again, none of this was confirmed, but fans didn't care. Screenshots of vague claims were shared thousands of times. Comments like, "This lines up with what I heard," only added fuel to the fire. The idea that Cavill might have reacted privately to the parody or secretly agreed with the criticism became a narrative too tempting for the fandom to resist. TikTok creators jumped in too, creating dramatic edits comparing Cavill's Geralt to moments from Season 4, arguing, sometimes jokingly, sometimes seriously, that even he would have laughed at how close the parody came to reality. The edits grew more elaborate, adding emotional music and old quotes from Cavill interviews spliced together in ways that made them sound like deeper confessions. Viewers watched these videos and commented things like, "He tried to tell us," "This makes everything make sense," and "Now the parody feels way too real." The speculation tightened up even more when people began referencing the long-standing theory that Cavill left the show due to creative disagreements. Some fans argued that the parody validated those rumors. Others insisted Cavill would never publicly criticize the project, so imagining his private reaction became a stand-in's fantasy for the frustration fans felt. It wasn't about whether the rumor was true. It was about filling in the silence with something that matched the emotional tone of the fandom. What made this moment so intense was the absence of real information. Cavill remained silent. Netflix remained silent. The showrunners remained silent. And when none of the central figures speak, the loudest voices become the speculative ones. Fans treated that silence as confirmation. Theories grew legs simply because no one stepped forward to shut them down.
By the time the discussion peaked, the speculation wasn't really about Cavill at all. It was about what he symbolized. To fans, Cavill represented the version of The Witcher they believed in, respectful of the books, loyal to the lore, and committed to portraying Geralt as he was meant to be. So when the parody highlighted the parts of the show that had drifted away from that vision, imagining Cavill's hypothetical reaction became a way for fans to express their own disappointment. He became a mirror for the fandom's feelings, an icon of the version of the show they wished still existed. And because of that, even unverified rumors took on a life of their own. They didn't need proof, they just needed emotion. As the parody continued spreading, the entire fandom shifted into detective mode. Suddenly, every old rumor, every vague comment, and every anonymous source was pulled back into the spotlight. The online space became a storm of speculation, with fans dissecting details that had been overlooked or ignored for years. People weren't just talking about the parody anymore. They were using it as a springboard to revisit every lingering question surrounding the franchise. And because emotions were running so high, even the smallest pieces of speculation gained massive traction. On Reddit, long posts began resurfacing, threads that had originally gone unnoticed, where users claimed to have inside knowledge about tension behind the scenes. None of this was confirmed, but the timing made it feel believable to a crowd that was already frustrated. Fans pointed to past interviews where cast members seemed tense or careful with their wording, and these clips suddenly went viral again. Even moments that once felt harmless were now being reinterpreted under a new, more suspicious light. YouTube channels jumped in immediately. Creators uploaded video essays breaking down the parody frame by frame, suggesting hidden messages the animators may not have even intended. Some pointed out that the tone of the joke matched long-standing fan complaints almost too perfectly, hinting that the writers behind the parody might have been echoing the internet's criticism. Others went further, claiming the clip was a deliberate jab at Netflix's creative direction, even though there was no evidence for that. The speculation didn't need proof. The momentum itself was enough to make theories feel real. On Twitter, users started posting screenshots of years-old comments, insisting these were signs of creative disagreements. Someone would post a vague quote like, "I had strong opinions about character arcs," and immediately thousands of people would respond, trying to decode its true meaning. By now, nothing was taken at face value. Every sentence, every pause, every facial expression in old interviews was reinterpreted like a hidden clue in a mystery story. Discord servers that had been quiet for months suddenly exploded back to life. Fans began cross-referencing rumors, comparing different insider leaks, and trying to determine which ones lined up. Some users insisted the problems went deeper than fans realized, while others argued that the fandom was spiraling out of control. But even those voices of reason were drowned out by the sheer volume of speculation. The fascinating part is that most of these claims had no verified source. They were fragments of old discussions, repeated enough times to begin sounding credible. But in moments of collective frustration, people cling to narratives that feel emotionally true, even if they're not factually proven. The parody didn't create these theories, it exposed a pressure point. Fans had been holding on to doubts, frustrations, and unanswered questions for so long that the joke finally gave them permission to let everything spill out. By the peak of the frenzy, the line between reality and rumor no longer mattered. What mattered was the story the fandom had built, a story fueled by emotion, disappointment, and the desire for clarity that never came. And because the official team stayed silent, the theories filled the void, growing bigger, louder, and more confident with every new post. The frenzy became more than just speculation. It became a reflection of how deeply fans felt about the world of The Witcher. And once a fandom reaches that level of intensity, even the wildest theories become part of the conversation. As the parody meme grew bigger, people began wondering how Netflix would respond. According to Online Buzz, the situation caught the attention of executives, not just because it mocked the show, but because it had gone viral outside its usual audience. Whether or not the platform was actually concerned, the timing of their silence made it feel like they were choosing to avoid the topic. And when a company stays quiet during a controversy, fans always read into it. Viewers began crafting theories about Netflix monitoring the situation internally. Some claimed the silence meant they were planning changes. Others argued it meant the platform didn't want to legitimize the joke by acknowledging it. Either way, the lack of official response became fuel for even more discussion. In the absence of clarity, fans filled the gap with their own interpretations, and every day without a statement made the controversy feel even more significant. What made the entire situation fascinating was how a single comedy moment managed to overshadow weeks of official marketing. The parody wasn't meant to be deep commentary, it was just a joke. Yet it ended up saying things reviewers had been saying for months, but in a way the entire internet understood instantly. People started arguing that Family Guy had unintentionally highlighted the show's issues better than professional critics. Creators on YouTube and TikTok began dissecting what the parody represented. Some said it captured the loss of heart in Season 4. Others claimed it exposed the disconnect between the fans and the creative team. Even viewers who weren't angry found the situation interesting because of how quickly the conversation spread. The parody became more than a joke, it became a cultural checkpoint, something people would reference when talking about where the franchise began to shift. As with any major fandom moment, the community eventually split into two sides. Supporters of the show defended Season 4, arguing that the parody was exaggerated. Critics insisted the joke revealed the series' real problems. The debates became more emotional, and discussions that started with humor gradually transformed into heated disagreements. People who loved the books felt vindicated. Casual fans felt validated. Longtime viewers felt frustrated that a comedy sketch had managed to summarize their concerns better than the show itself. Meanwhile, defenders argued that the backlash was blown out of proportion and that the parody targeted plenty of franchises, not just The Witcher. But by then, the disagreement had grown beyond normal conversation. It became a reflection of how deeply people were attached to the franchise and how far they felt it had drifted. By the time the dust settled, the parody had done something unexpected. It forced the fanbase to confront the show's identity crisis. It made people revisit choices, question direction shifts, and reflect on how the franchise had evolved. Even though most of the rumors were unverified, and many of the debates exaggerated, the overall reaction made one thing clear. Fans were emotionally invested, even if that investment came out as frustration. People began wondering what this meant for the show's future. Would the backlash influence upcoming decisions? Would the creative team address the concerns? Or would everything continue unchanged? Nobody knew for sure, but the conversation refused to die out. What started as a joke had become a moment of reckoning. Whether you loved Season 4 or hated it, the parody made everyone pause and think about where the series was headed next.
In the end, it wasn't the scale of the controversy that made this moment unforgettable, it was the simplicity of it. A joke created a chain reaction, revived old tensions, sparked new speculation, and revealed how deeply fans cared about the franchise. Sometimes the smallest spark creates the biggest fire, and this was one of those rare moments. The parody didn't break the fandom, but it exposed the cracks. And now all eyes are on where The Witcher goes from here.